So yeah, for today's segment itself, as I briefly mentioned, we are cutting through DMCR, but I also want to take this opportunity to just talk about a little bit about low cadence cycling itself. Basically, essentially, just to get everyone on the same page, cadence just is simply refer to how fast your legs spin in revolution per minute, or by simpler term, what we call RPM. Now, most cyclists generally aim for 80 to 100 RPM, which is great for endurance riding, but low cadence cycling means pedaling at 50 to 70 RPM in a harder gear, making each of your pedal stroke much more powerful. Think of it as climbing a steep hill in a higher gear. Your legs work harder with each push, building strength rather than speed. Now, of course, the key question: why does it matter in that sense, right? Why can't we just spin more and make our life much more easier as we are cycling? So primarily there's a couple of reasons. Number one is that you definitely engage your muscle more, especially your core muscle itself, in the sense that because you're riding a heavier gear, you recruit more muscle fiber per stroke, whether it's coming from your core, your chest, your legs, your arms, whichever part of your body. You're just recruiting more muscle to help you on that. Number two, personally, is better for your joint health. It's definitely less repetitive motion than fast spinning. Lastly, also is that it's another aspect of learning how to deal with steep hills, headwinds, and also much more technical terrain that require to go for low cadence cycling. So essentially, there are different ways to train for it. Of course, it's not just grinding the gear, it's that simple, which is what most of the people are concerned about. You definitely first have to do find a couple of ways to see what suits you for low cadence training itself. So some of the things when it comes to low cadence cycling, some of the drills that I personally have employed for my own training. Number one has always been seated hill climbs. So find a steady incline, long and steady, like maybe by Mount Faber, shift in the harder gears possible, and just maintain a steady RPM for 3 to 5 minutes at once. Focus on smooth control pedal stroke rather than bouncing in the saddle or off the saddle. Yeah. Next also is to try big gear intervals. So usually for me, when I conduct my training at SA, I always like to do maybe about 50, 60, 70 RPM or hard resistance. So what we call big chainring, and do the smallest cock at the back and just generate the torque as well. So usually I do a set of 5x3 drill. So 5 sets of this at 3 minute each interval with a recovery of 2 minutes of normal speeding just to get the power back. This helps build power without grinding your legs into oblivion on that. Of course, there's other methods like single leg drills or strength training in the gym, etc. So you have to find something that suits you on that basis. I just prefer to do my fitness and training when I'm cycling on that. So I want to talk a little bit more about this low cadence in the sense that why is it pretty much a senior cyclist, means to say maybe like age of 50 and above, is probably one of your best friends when it comes to cycling. Again, like I mentioned earlier, it's easier on the joint. It helps to build strength on that because aging naturally leads to muscle loss, but low cadence work help to maintain the leg strength, which is a key for staying active and independent, especially when you're cycling on your day-to-day life. It also makes you much more controllable on climbs and descent because we are not young like these kids. They're able to maintain a higher heart rate or being in the rate for longer to go up these climbs. Slower pedal stroke means you have better bike handling, especially on the tricky terrain on that. And last but not least is you really conserve a lot of energy, making your grand fondos ride feel more manageable, or even for those overseas ride in Malaysia, definitely much more manageable in the long run itself. Yeah. The other thing also to talk about is efficiency. It might sound counterintuitive to ride at a lower cadence, but it's actually energy efficient for certain efforts. I find that I conserve energy by not spinning unnecessarily fast, allowing me to maintain a steady pace over longer distance. You will see a couple of different of this segment here in the video where I will truly go all out because it's a straight road for this route. And you can see how I managed to get up the speed and maintain the same low RPM to make my heart rate low and keep my efforts relatively low as well. Coming up on this is the Bartley Bridge segment that I believe a lot of cyclists in Singapore are familiar with. It's actually a rolling bridge itself. I won't say it's a very steep gradient, relatively manageable. But one thing I do want to share here is just how you can use low cadence to ride at speed, comfort, and tackling segments such as this. So video is naturally speed up, as you guys can see, because I just don't want to hold you guys too much boredom for watching the whole video in its original time duration. As you can see right now, when we're going up this slope itself, there is absolutely no need to spin that much at 90 to 110 RPM to go up on that. Even at a low 60 to 50 RPM at that speed, it's definitely manageable to go up this slope on that. Now please ignore the slope indicator on screen. I think my definitely this time for a new bike comp, the readings are all relatively weird on that. But yeah, so once you get up to the apex of the slope or the climb, it's time to slowly get up the speed. And if you notice on the segment, I don't necessarily get up the speed very quickly. Let's say a jump from 20 to 40 km per hour itself. I employ my technique pretty slow and making sure that my RPM does not increase or spike suddenly, so as to not give too much issue to the other riders behind me or to myself by blowing up too early. There's only so much matches you can burn in a ride, so you have to be efficient and pedal smartly for this purpose. The other question I often get a lot is how can I maintain such a low RPM but yet able to ride at such a high speed with a low heart rate? Now, of course, training that plays a part, but equipment also is kind of important. So rather than focusing on watt saving or arrow saving or weight saving or whatever the new innovation is that the cycling brand is putting out there year after year, I focus a lot more on training my low cadence using the biggest chainring possible and the appropriate cassette at the back. So my setup is 56T, a 1x56T from Digirit, the brand. The cassette behind is just a third-party super lightweight cassette, 1134, to train onto that basis. Now, with such a big chainring, it does focus on making sure that you do not spin unnecessarily, and you have to be very, very alert to the pedaling sensation in order to produce the torque. Now, torque is relatively important for low cadence cycling because it's essentially what drives your pedaling motion, as what you guys can see on the screen. What's essential over here is that we are not young like before. We have a certain mileage and a certain physical capability with our limit at our age, so we're going to make the best use of whatever we can to enjoy cycling in its purest form. So the downhill segment has another important aspect of why we go with a big chainring, because it allows us to pedal downhill to still generate speed. Most cyclists will just stop and take a break. There is no ability to, or rather for them to continue pedaling, because they will start to spin out strongly at that pace. So going downhill is important that, you know, if you have a big chainring, it will help a lot, but you also have to train how to climb up as well. As the saying goes, what goes up must come down. Yeah. We now approach Upper Thompson Road. This is a relatively a straight long path down all the way towards Mandai, and usually this is a very good segment for training your own individual time trial or even team time trial in a very safe manner with these shared roads with other motorists. Now why this is such a great road is because while it's relatively straight in one single direction, there are a couple of different challenges or segments as you're going to see here that allow you to train comfortably but yet cautiously of your technique to perfect it over time. Usually after this traffic light stop itself, that's where I'll start to get the boys into a play bike segment, because it's a long straight road all the way down to the usual racing stop. If you just saw me earlier doing the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, that's the counter, let them know to get ready, and that's where I'll start to go all out on a TT posture and mentality to try to hit some PR for this segment. So again, aerodynamics is kind of important from what you guys are seeing here itself. I'm definitely not one of the strongest rider around, definitely not the leanest either, as you can see on the video. It does require me to employ some aerodynamic hacks by staying low and reducing my frontal surface area to get up to speed and maintain on that. Now the RPM is always relatively low because it has a need to keep the heart rate low to be able to sustain longer for this type of segment on that. Of course, no one is able to hold a TT position for very long unless you have trained like a pro every day. Yeah, but it does give you the necessary boost that is required for you to get up to speed in a controlled manner, but yet also as little fatigue as possible. So yeah, having seen my video today, I'm relatively sure that there's some things you definitely can learn to try and employ. Is by no means an easy journey. You can't get this on day one, or maybe even after a month you might get it. But for me, it took me over a year to train to develop this sort of muscle and strength to get there. So I hope you can get it faster than I do in terms of technique and help yourself. And yeah. So the last segment of this is coming to the end. This is where it's more of a slight uphill going up. Of course, your cadence definitely will have to be a bit faster to match up with the speed intensity. And this is where the importance of having stability on the bike is very important, on the pedal, saddle, and also your hand position. Your hand position pretty much dictates almost 90% of the torque you're going to generate. If those are not stable, whatever you do, no matter how you generate the muscle, instead of having the muscle to purely generate the pedaling force, your muscle is also kind of lost on trying to keep a steady balance on that. So compared to someone that's more efficient, yeah, you're definitely likely going to lose out to that person in a direct head-to-head mini race. To sum it up for today's video, I just want to stress the importance of low cadence cycling as an alternative for you if you're not able to handle high cadence cycling. It's a valuable technique, particularly for me, and the whole lots of benefit itself, whether it's for me or any other senior rider such as you that might be watching the show. Definitely it's more friendly on your joint. It builds strength, it improves your bike control, and makes cycling more enjoyable and sustainable over the long run. I encourage you to give it a try, consider this an alternative, and incorporate some low cadence training into your routine. But as always, listen to your body, consult with a healthcare professional if needed, and ride safely.